Right, I'm back. Any better? We've put some bigger mains in, changed the chokes. Yeah, adjusted the absorber on the dyno. Looks better on my end. Do I still look like Bruce Lee? Anyone now? Right, yeah, we're back. Okay, cool. Right. From my end, it looks better. So yeah. We obviously need some bigger mains. We're running lean. Right, the trouble is I've started again, so I've lost the whole of the chat. So yeah, if you're still out there, you're gonna have to fire some questions at me, or I'm gonna just waffle all night. Well, at least I've got SW out there, so at least one of you's back in the room. Where have you all gone? You're probably on a different web page now. Okay, my thoughts on Overcam versus Duratec. Well, I mean, to be honest, the Duratec is a modern engine and it is way better. Yeah, you know, the thing is that you can throw some cams and a bit of head port in, and you can get a Duratec to 270 brake without too much difficulty. I've never achieved 270 brake horsepower from a Pinto. So that kind of says it all, really. Right. SW, you have 205 core. But should you save it for future or build it? Oh, I don't know. Right. Here we go again. Yeah. Mr. Bite, you're back in the room. Yeah, it does seem a lot better now. My computer's gone quiet. My computer's quieter now, so that's happier. Right. Jamper says, what kind of carb trumpets do you prefer for 45 DCOEs? The original ones that go inside the carb body, while most of the aftermarket ones don't. Well, whatever fits it, whether it goes in the carb body or not, doesn't really have any bearing on it. Del Auto ones never did go in the body. Del Auto ones always bolted on the flange like a Gen V one, so kind of it really doesn't make any difference. What I thought you were going to ask about is whether you have a narrow shallow taper or a big full radius one. I've never seen a full radius one do anything. The shallower angle trumpets with a narrow flare like the original Weber ones seem to work best on most things, and they did on Andy Pipe's Pinto. But with the latest developments I did on that actually preferred a more flared trumpet. So who knows? You just got to try it. Right, what we got here? We've got commenters. I've seen your Pinto 2.3 videos that twin 45s on 40mm chokes perform better than twin 48s. Except very high. I'm also seeing that twin 50s can perform better. Yeah. I mean, it's horses for courses. There is always a sweet spot because the choke narrows down the carburetor and makes more of a step for the air. So yes, it creates more venturi, more airflow effect, but it's more of a step. So on one sense, with a bigger carb and smaller choke, it draws fuel through better, but it's actually more of a restriction to the airflow. Whereas the smaller carb but a big choke, there's less airflow restriction, but the carburetor doesn't function as well. Now, on a high RPM race engine, that's of little consequence. Damper, you're right. Isn't there a step in the body if the trumpet doesn't go inside? Well, that depends on the carburetor. There certainly would be on most Webers. Dell'Alto's not. I think it varies from carburetor to carburetor. I can't think of a. I'm struggling right now to think of a Weber where the choke doesn't slot in. Although I do seem to remember some 40s being like that. I'm pretty sure there were some, but it's like 40 years ago since I saw them. So the brain cells don't remember that much now. DB 1980, yeah, well, it seems more stable on my end anyway. Yeah, hopefully your end is. Yeah, and what I was saying before this all went belly up is that a lot of people over choke the carburetors. And you get a fast road crossflow. Anyone says, oh, you've got to have 32, 33, or even 34 millimeter chokes in it. And I was very recently talking to a builder of full race Lotus twin cams that were actually 180 odd horsepower, so from 1600 cc, so they're strong. And they were talking about the Appendix K ones that have to run 40 mil carbs, and the fact that they put 34 millimeter chokes in those 40s. And my question to them was, well, do you actually gain any power from the 34 millimeter choke? Because when I've done like 32, 33 comparisons, there's nothing in it. And if you look at a 34 mil choke in a 40 carb, there's no real step because the choke's virtually the same size as the tube and auxiliary Venturi. And Lewis said to me, yeah, we're about a horsepower. So 1 horsepower on a 180 odd brake horsepower engine. So does that mean the 34 millimeter choke works or doesn't? Probably I'd say not, because they probably found 1 horsepower at 8,000 revs and probably lost 30 at 3,500. And that goes to something else in that everyone says, well, small chokes makes more torque. Small chokes don't make more torque. Small chokes can perhaps make the engine more drivable, flexible, because you can stick your foot in and it will pick up and go rather than having to nurse the revs up. But if you look at a throttle body, there's no choke in a throttle body, and generally engines on throttle bodies will make more torque than carbureted stuff. And that's because the fuel is better, the mapping's better. So too often everyone OTTs to chokes, I say, and I've just and like with those 2 crossflows I've just done, they're both on 30 millimeter chokes. But if you look up the standard size for a Lotus twin cam, they will, I think, from the factory, they only came with 30 mil chokes. So overhead cam versus dual overhead cam, is the cylinder block the same? No, it's not. It's completely different. Assuming the dual overhead cam you're talking about is not the Sierra Cosworth. If you're talking the 8-valve chain-driven Granada Scorpio engine, the 8-valve one we mentioned earlier, no, it's a completely different block. So yeah, there's no interchangeability between the overhead cam and the double overhead cam engine. Yeah, exactly. 8-valve double. Yeah. Nothing carries over between that and the Pinto. Maybe the oil filter. What's my take to build? What's your take to build Pinto cost effective for dirt track folk for the price of tag of, let's say, 3K? What valves, compression, cam would you make it drivable, competitive, or where to focus? 3K doesn't buy much. What your folk engine? I guess you're using side drive carburetors. And if you've got to build an engine from scratch, if you don't mind life in it, 3K, probably get yourself a decent head, and a cam. Start from there. Valves with a Pinto basically big. It's hard to overdo them. So Group 1, Group 2 size valves. Your compression is going to depend on what pistons you're running. If you really want to be competitive with a Pinto, you want like getting on for 12-to-1 compression. And stock cast pistons won't stick that for long, if at all. So if you've got to pay an engine builder, 3K is not going to get you anything. It'll get you a fast road engine. But if you're doing it yourself, yeah, set of Volta pistons, maybe a set of cheapy Chinese rods, CNC head from someone like Burton's, 12-to-1 compression, GTS 4 cam, and you should be up somewhere near. You should be somewhere up, getting on for 200 horsepower. Henlo says, after spending 6 months on his Mark II Escort X-Flow engine, it was stolen days after completion. Yeah, that's sickening. That's sickening. Yeah, that's yeah. Right. SW says, yes, okay, cool. Right. Wilhelm, the Pinto airbox in the live chat reminder video. Are there Webers underneath it or Solexes? No, they're Webers. They're Webers. The Solexes were originally homologated and they were only 40 mil. But late, I think at the very end of the Mark I production, Ford homologated the IDFs. So that airbox has got 44 IDFs under it, not Solexes. Martin McKendry says, why do performance dizzies not keep the vacuum advance? Group 1 Pinto had a collector connected to each cylinder. Okay, right. There's a couple of things going on here. In that, without the vacuum advance, the distributor base plate is more stable, so you're going to get less timing flutter, less variations in timing. So that is one good reason not to have it, because if you're on the edge of verge of detonation, you want as little scatter in the ignition timing as possible. So that's one reason. When you've got an IR set up, individual runners, basically you've got NAFL vacuum anyway. So once you're in the throttle, you've got no real vacuum. So it's kind of pointless with carbs. But if you think about the original Group 1 specification, technically that had to be available on the road car, because the original Group 1 regs were as per road cars. So I'm guessing for economy emission reasons, they probably had to keep the vacuum advance. But for racing, there's no real performance advantage. And if you only connect the vacuum to one port of the manifold, the module in the distributor will be doing this, and the advance will backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, which is terrible. Yeah, Solix C40A DDHE carburetors. Yes, that I think that you think correct. That's what the original downdraft Soluxes would be. Never had anything to do with the set myself. John Bragg says he's got a Crossfire AX blocks on twin 40s and a Caterham 7, looking to go still for a solid, reliable, fast road car. Any recommendations on piston size, cams, chokes? Wow. Big question there. Yeah. How far are you going? Because you can go to 130, 140 horsepower on a rubber engine. You really don't need steel for all of that. If it's road use only, I would stick with the 40mm carbs. And even on a Caterham, which is quite light, I'd probably stop at something like 234, and enjoy a bit of torque. I don't think you really need to go all steel at that kind of level, unless you're up in the carb. You know, if you're going to stick it on, you can stick it on 45s and stick a 244 or 254 cam in it and rev it to the moon. But that's not good for road use. Smokey says he just bought a Formula Ford 1600 Crossfloat with a 244 cam, light and flywheel twin 40s for 3.5k for his Mark II Escort. Yes, that should be fun. It's probably not actually a genuine Ford engine, because Formula Ford 1600 engine is actually pretty standard. They're not allowed to modify it. So if he's got a 244 cam in it, it's definitely no longer a Formula Ford engine. It's been severely modified along the way. Might be worth looking to see what's in it. But yeah, even so, fun for the road. Jamper says, off topic, do I recommend using dowel pins for flywheel or bolts are enough? What, and Pintos? Okay, the fast. I think, to me, that depends how it's going to get used. If I'm doing someone for kind of normal road use or some spirited driving with something like an FR32 cam, normal bolts, or an ARP bolts are a much better upgrade, because the ARP bolts have got a shoulder, and the shoulder's important, because what shears the bolts is the flywheel shifting, and it acts like a guillotine and it shears through them. Well, the ARP bolts have got a shoulder, which means there's not such a sloppy fit. They're also done up tighter, so they clamp it all together much better. So for very mild road use, standard bolts. For something a bit more upgraded, I use ARPs. And actually, if you look at a standard cast flywheel that's been under ARPs, you can see they clamp it that much. The flywheel is actually compressed with a bolt set. But for anything competition-ish, I dowel them, because they can do shear. Another question: is it possible to take from Twin D series vacuum signals, connect it to a map sensor? I've seen that there are some ports on 145 models, but 151. Yeah, but what are you doing with your map sensor? I think you could do what you're taking with a vacuum port. I think some of the Del Autos would. I don't think you got 4 vacuum ports on the Webers. And to be honest, once you're much above progression on the carburetors, you've got no real vacuum in the intake. So I think I'm not sure what you're going to gain with a map sensor. Are you talking? Is this for ignition timing purposes, to go on a aftermarket ECU? Because you're probably better off using a throttle position sensor and doing it on throttle position than vacuum. Where's my tea? I had some tea here somewhere. Yeah, but I'd say it's if you can use throttle position, because as I say on side drafts there's so little vacuum unless you're at idle. Yeah, well that's the thing. You're only going to get a reasonable amount of vacuum basically at idle or very just off idle. What is nothing. So which is why for the most part nobody does. Yeah, I mean it's possible. Everything's doable. You might have to drill and tap your manifold and then join all the pipes together to a little collector box and then off to your map sensor. But I think that's hard work. I think that's a very hard way to achieve not a lot. Right, Steve Cos going back says Kent 234 or Piper 270 bike carb crossflow carb. I don't think it's going to make much difference, to be honest. John, yeah, well, it was. Oh, sorry, yeah, that was a big question. SW says, does the Pinto engine benefit on sequential spark, modern full sequential EFI, or is it wasted on older engines? Okay, well, so sequential spark does nothing. And in terms of sequential on the fueling, modern cars only do that for economy and emission purposes. There's no power gain to be had from any of it. Let's say that modern engines they need all that for economy emission purposes. One spark is all you need once you've set fire to the air fuel in the cylinder, you've set fire to it. So you know that's where there's a lot of talk about multi-spark, but what are you sparking? Because if it's on the mixture's on fire, it's on fire. Big Popper Pump, love the work. Okay, oh cool, yeah, well it's good. Yeah, South Africa. I like this. We're getting global. What's okay? Ross Page says, what's better, one coil, 4 litre, 4 individual coils? Nothing in it. There's nothing in it. I think, from what I can see, coil pack and HT leads seems to be more reliable than individual ignition coils. But to be honest, that could be down to what you've got available, what ECU you run. Generally, on the management side of things, I just go wasted spark. Cool. Oh, SW in Finland. Yeah, I love this global. I love this global audience. This is good. Russia. Oh, yeah. What ECU is best for NA? Who's tuning it? Enough spark and enough fuel at the right time. So, it doesn't, here I've not used personally here, I've only ever run 3 ECUs. I've run an Omex, I've run an Emerald, I've run a DTA, and basically they all make the same power. So Ross, I would go with whoever you're going to get to tune the vehicle is most happy with. And some of it is how many features do you want. Some will get more than others. Right, Smokey says, is enough vacuum from side draft carbs for a brake booster on a servo? Usually, yes. Now, remembering back to when some cars had them from the factory, if I remember rightly, Sunbeam TIs actually took the vacuum from 2 cylinders. But most of the time, 1 cylinder makes enough vacuum for a brake servo. I know with the American V8s, they look a lot at manifold vacuum and talk about enough for power brakes, as their American cousins call a servo. But I guess you tend not to see full-on mental race cams, which will have very little vacuum with a servo. What's my views on real long trumpets? They work or not? Right. I've literally run trumpets a meter long, and most old school 2-valve engines like long. There's a lot of inertia, there's a lot of ram tuning. So generally, most of them, the longer the better. But you've got to test it. I did a lot of trumpet testing, must be 20, going on 30 years ago now, with Dave Walker on his Rolling Road, and ran really, really long trumpets. And as a rule, it tended to pick up power everywhere. So, yeah, but you've just got to try it on the dyno. What would be a good setup for a 2-litre overcam to get torque with a 4-speed gearbox? What would be a good cam with a 32, 36, 130 horsepower be enough? Okay, right. 130 horsepower, and you want torque, yeah, FR30, Burton BF134, Piper BP134. Anyway, one of the high torque cams is enough. Russ, why was you told short is best? Okay, right. Now this whole thing, long and short, right? It's all relative. If you look at a modern production petrol engine, it's got huge, great long inlets. You know, they're like 2 foot long. So whatever trumpet you've got on your Weber is actually short, because it's not 2-3 foot long like the standard EFI intakes. So when you're talking long and short, in reality, all Weber intake trumpet setups are actually short, whether it's a slightly longer one or a slightly shorter one, if you see what I mean. But generally, it's where the engine likes it. So it's not really whether it's for the drag strip or whether it's for the racetrack or whatever else. You need to find the sweet spot for any engine, and say as a rule, Pinto likes long. So if you've got a Sierra, you can run a longer intake than you can in an Escort. And I've seen some Pintos with some really big numbers, and they've bent the intake manifold up, sort of pointing it up to the bonnet to get longer intakes in. Yeah, right. So Craig says hello. Yeah. FR32 for the Pinto yet to test drive. Yes, yeah, it sounds good. What are you going to do carburation wise with your FR32? Pair of Webers? Ross says every engine, yes, you need to try different. Yeah. I mean, you don't always know what's going to happen, and that's the thing. And then it's like you think having your own dyno, you'd think you're great because you'll get all the answers. Well, you don't. You just get more questions than answers. And I had an interesting one the other day in that I ran an engine up. I put a bigger air corrector jet in, which should lean the mixture off. But it actually written it up, which doesn't make sense. But I think what happened in that instance was that the bigger air corrector changed the way the emulsion tube worked, so it actually picked up more fuel from the main. When I went even bigger on the air corrector, it did do what I expected it to do and lean the mixture out. Right, so we're going to question: is there a difference in performance between the intake manifold length and trumpet length, or just no? It's total length. It really the engine doesn't know which bits carburetor, which bits intake, and which bits trumpet. The engine just sees the whole length. You might get sometimes you'll get a slight change where you introduce the fuel. For argument's sake, if you introduce the fuel external to the trumpet, it has a better charge cooling effect. So sometimes introducing fuel outside the engine makes some more horsepower, but the actual length itself doesn't. Wilhelm says Pinto engine 90.8 Wasner, so standard size YB rods, piston sticking out about 1.2 millimeter, mini off the piston crowns, only a squish area. Have you tried that once? No, because yeah, I see what you're saying, because what you're trying to do is leave a bump on the piston. What I would be more concerned of is that if you try and leave that biscuit, are you going to leave odd pockets around the edge of the crown that are going to be prone to detonation and getting in the way of the flame in front? People with really, really long memories may remember TWR pistons, and TWR or TRW, I think it was, used to make a big dome piston for a Pinto, and they made more power if you sliced the dome off. So I don't think it's worth having a bump in the for conventional tuning. I don't think it's worth trying to. Ross says it's mad as one tuner says long and another says short. Yes, well, there you go. And back to say what you're calling long, what you're calling short. Because really a 25 millimeter trumpet or a 50 millimeter trumpet or a 60 millimeter, that's not a massive difference. And if you've got one on a inch manifold and one on a 3-inch manifold, where's your long and your short gone now? Big Papa Hump says running 32, 36 with FR31 will play with 38 jetted and correction jets. We'll go in EFI or pair of 40s if you can get hands on a all those are kind of work. Andre, have I tried to use Chinese Webers and any problems with them? Well, yes, no, yes, no. Right, Chinese Webers. Years ago, when I first had the dyno, I bought a Chinese 38D gas. It worked, but I couldn't stop it leaking fuel from various orifices. But since then, I've run numerous FHAS carburetors from Ike, and they've all worked, and without problems. And interestingly, I've found that their jets actually fit better than genuine Weber jets, because I've got lots of jets, and I find that these days that with a lot of genuine stuff, you pull the air corrector out you pull the jet assembly out the Weber, and the main jet is sitting in the bottom of the carburetor because it fell off. Or we need a vise and a pair of mole grips to pull the air corrector out the jet train. So I actually think that the FHASs are better than the Weber jets. I don't know if that answers the question, but Craig says, someone asking about building a Pinto for dirt track. Popular combination in South Africa for a 2.1 was Toyota 221R pistons with Isuzu KB diesel rods. Okay, yeah, I know nothing about that. I know nothing about either of them. Ross Page, 40mm or 180mm. Ram pipes? 180 would be long, wouldn't it? 180, that'd be quite a yeah, I mean, you've got to try it. Yeah, that's all I can say to that. Generally, especially if you're talking Pinto, longer's better. Okay, apparently the dog is missing me. So yeah, we I might not have too much longer here. Wheels are amazing. Well, yeah, I like anything with wheels and engine. I like things with wings, not so much. Things that float, I don't do boats. So yeah, if it's got wheels and an engine, I'm interested in it. I'm just that's my lovely lady asking yeah, how we do it. Apparently the dog's missing me. That's nice because it's not my dog, it's her dog. But well, it's my dog when it likes me. No, you're welcome. Yeah, it's cool. I quite enjoy the chats. I mean, originally I thought you guys were all going to ask about all the stuff we've put on video, but you don't. You will ask about something else anyway. So, you know. But hey, that's fine. And of course, what I learned, and it took me a long while to learn it, that back in the day when the only source of information were the car magazines or the local tuning shop, the advice you got from local tuning shop was only based around what he sold. The place I used to go to, Kent cams were the thing to have. But that's because he sold Kent cams and he made more money selling Kent cams than he did Pipers. So he didn't push Piper cams, he pushed Kent ones. And if you wanted a Newman cam, then no, you didn't get one of them at all. Steve Cos says, any more X-Flows on the dyno zone? Not in the immediate. I'm still piecing together a video, but the South African crossflow I did is done and finished. And I ended up with 125 horsepower on our 224 cam and 40s with 30mm chokes. And and yeah, that's done and dusted. And I'm just editing the video. My own Dyno Mule Crossflow, when I get around to it, I'm going to pull that apart, refresh it, stick a cam in it, and then yeah, try some weird and wonderful things. Ike sent me a bunch of cams, so yeah, more Crossflows in the pipeline. More Crossflows in the pipeline. A lot more of everything. I've even got some Zetec in the pipeline, and a Turbo Pinto. I just need to get through everything. Yeah, soonish. On V8 Rovers, there's more of them in the pipeline as well. And it's funny because when I was young, I was only interested in the latest, newest, bestest stuff, and I've kind of gone back to my roots from 40-something years ago now, in that trying to tune modern engines doesn't really appeal to me anymore. The modern engines are very good, but what amazes me is that we're still learning how to tune 50, 60, going on 70-year-old engines. Yeah, big pop pump. I don't care what to. Yeah. Oh no, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. You know, that's yeah. I mean, people want to talk engines. I'll talk engines, all sorts. Whether we're talking 2-strokes, split singles, or even in recent times, I've got quite interested in some of the 2-stroke diesels and Detroit diesels. John Christian says, what's my experience with NA Cosworth engines? Not a lot. I started to build one that canned it. I have had YB Cosworth heads on the flow bench, and they don't really flow any air. So you've got to work really hard to make an NA Cosworth much better than you have a Pinto. So yeah, I can't really help on them. I know that a few people I've talked to have been relatively disappointed, but then it was never made to be NA. So yeah. But you know, go right with a turbo on them. Sean says he's restoring a Mark 1 RS 2000, aiming to keep the engine stopped, looking under the bonnet, pet Pinto up, high torque cam. Yeah, I mean, I would Kent FR30, or I've got one, I've not run it. If you want something that's a bit more drop in, try a BF134. It's not quite got as much lift as the Kent, and I don't think it needs it, but it's an easier fit. Andre says, "Oh, the manifold preview. All right, yeah. Well, that belongs to track name. Oops, shush. That belongs to a track name of Paul Kemp. It was an exhaust manifold for a kit car of some description. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been a Fisher Fury, yeah, it was probably too much manifold for the engine, very big bore. Yeah, ran it one day, and I turned the lights out. Whoa, it was going. As do a lot of manifolds, and a lot of people go, "Oh, well, you know, that must be retarded timing." No, it's not. It's the fact that manifolds are thin, and you stick a blow lamp up a thin tube, the tube will get hot and glow. That's all there is to it. You don't normally see cast iron manifolds glowing. If you see a cast iron manifold glowing, you probably have got retarded ignition timing. But a tubular manifold, yeah, you've turned the lights out, they will glow. Yeah, I've seen that cars, motorbikes. It's not that unusual, but it's quite a striking picture that was. Any more for any more? Because I'm gonna have to go in a minute because apparently the dog needs me. James isn't in the room today, so SW says safe bore for over a cram. Yeah, 92mm is dead safe. Yeah, I mean most will go to 93, but 92 is safe. 92. If I'm doing turbos, nitrous, or something like that, where I'm interested in wall thickness, 92 is where I'll stop. Especially if you're adding a power adder, because that extra few cc doesn't make any difference. But yeah, I guess also it makes a difference what block you've got. 92 is probably as far as you safely want to go on an early cylinder block. The early cylinder blocks, some of them will go more because people were building a 205 block. Okay, well, people were building putting 93mm pistons in the early blocks long before the 205 was ever thought of. Yeah, but 92 should be dead safe in the 205. And to be honest, the only difference between 92 and 93 is only 40cc. It's not actually going to make much difference power-wise. So, you know, I would, unless you're after every last scrap for racing purposes, you're probably better off to stick the 92, leave some life in the block. That's my take on it anyway. Unless we're talking race purposes, I prefer not to go as big as we possibly can. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for all of you to join in. Yeah, and James isn't here. David, hi, yes, Caterham, a couple of years ago. The X-Flow I built, yeah, I can remember David Howes. I can remember David's talking about a Crossflow I built for him for a Caterham. I built a few years back, and this must be 10 years ago. Well, I think no, I think I've done two. I've done two for David. I can't remember. I think the one you're talking about, David, is this the one with the J pistons in it? Can't remember what the cam was. I thought it was a 234. But if it made 156 horsepower, that is strong. David, you have to remind me. I can't remember too much what we did. Piston rod. I think they were. I'm pretty sure they were. The second one, mate, 2-ish years ago. Now it would have been longer ago than that, David. Because these days, I mean, I've had the dyno installed for longer than that. I've had the dyno installed since COVID, so it's probably longer ago than you think. Because nowadays, in order to make sure everything right, I won't build anything unless I can dyno it, just to make sure things are right and proper. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, I might go look at that. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. I'm gonna. Yeah. No. Thanks for the comment, Sean. Yeah. I am gonna have to fly now. Yeah. Hopefully by now you get the idea of it. First Tuesday of the month, 7:30 UK time. And I'll catch you for the next one. Thanks again for all your likes and chats and your joins in. And oh, Mr. Pipe's still in the room. All right. See you later, Andy. Yeah, let us know when you're next out. And I've still got to make a video on your engine, haven't I? All right. Oh, Alan's still in the room. Okay, cool. Right. Yeah, you asked me something about an engine once as well. Right. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to go now. I'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks for joining. I'll see you later. Take care, mate. Where's my end button? All right. See you later, guys.